Figure out what you want to be like, and then also learn how to speak chiropractic. Don't just get out with scripts and say, oh, I can say this, this, and this. Speak it out loud. Go to the open mics. As a comic, you have to go to open mics. You have to learn how to speak in front of people. You got to get the feedback. Screenings are brilliant from that standpoint, and get over yourself. Like, get over yourself. I know that you're going to have some nervousness and all that kind of stuff, but guess what? It's not about you. It's about saving lives.
Well, good morning. I'm Dr. Colin Elkin. Welcome to the Vitalistic Voice. I'm really thrilled today because this is an old friend of mine that I've got on the podcast this morning. And this gentleman really, he just portrays the love and caring that a chiropractor comes to the office with, that serves his people with. He's an open book. Dr. Marc Suprenant, you probably know him. You've seen him around. He's such an eloquent speaker. He's just everybody's friend and just somebody that everybody looks up to. So, Marc, I'm just so grateful to have you on the podcast this morning. Welcome.
Thanks, Colin. I take exception to the gentleman comment, but I'm not really a gentleman. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it.
So in fact that you just opened the door there because I know you've been practicing your stand-up comedy, and I tell you, there's nothing short of a comedian type of attitude when you're around. That's for sure. So I love it.
Let's start there. You know what? So I definitely want to start there because I'm going to throw you off track. So last year, some of you guys know this. I took a stand-up comedy class because I've always wanted to do it. I turned 50 last year. I don't think it's a midlife crisis. It's just something I've always wanted to do. And I go to this class, and and they start to teach you. It was Monday nights, 7 to 9:30. So I work all day, go to comedy class, and driving home at 10 o'clock at night. I'm in class with like all these young kids and a couple older people actually. And I get up on stage, and he's like, the teacher's like, hey, we got up on stage every single week. And the teacher's like, you're comfortable up there, like really. I mean, at MC, I speak at events, I've done this for years. The third week comes around, and I get up there, and I'm just winging this thing, and I bomb so bad. Like, Colin, like, I'm driving home at 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, what the hell am I even doing? Why am I wasting my time with this thing? I was miserable. I texted the teacher. I said, hey, I know I suck so bad tonight. And I go, I don't know if I'm going to finish this class. And he goes, you're actually a lot better than you probably thought you were. But then I realized after I had my pity party the next day, like, taking this class, being funny is different than writing jokes. And you actually have to write the jokes, and then you have to memorize the jokes and get the cadence and take the good things, take the bad things out, and you have to work this thing over and over again. And it was such a metaphor for how I've taught chiropractors for years, is like, you can't just go in there and just wing it. You have to actually take it seriously. And so the next 4 weeks of the class and then the graduation class, I absolutely killed and crushed the final class. Like, I felt like I was the funniest I'd ever been. Like, the crowd was laughing, everything like that. And I was like on my high like this. And then the very next night I did an open mic at just a random bar, and it was a little bit different format, and I bombed again. So it's like, it's with these highs and lows. But really what it came down to, my metaphor for chiropractic is like, it's the same way in our practice. When we're just in here, like we used to say in sports, just throw the ball out there and just play. Sometimes we just come into the office and we're not prepared to see people and take care of people. And if we're not taking it seriously, then of course we're going to bomb in our practice too. Great metaphor.
That's amazing. I give you so much credit, but you have the skill of that. And that's one thing that I've noticed about you over the years, is that you have this ability to captivate people and make them just feel good, make them feel welcome, and just make them feel like you're their best friend, So you do have that skill. So tell me, I mean, in learning this class, what were some of the skills you learned in this comedy class that you can use in your practice?
Yeah, I think probably that reinforced me more than anything else. And this is, like you said, that connection piece of it. Like, you're not going to get up on stage and make fun of other people. That's not what comedy is. It's like actually, what can you find from your perspective, what's funny in life? And like, so a lot of it is not necessarily have to be self-deprecating, but it's a lot of experiences. Like, so one of my opening lines is like, I get up on stage and I'm just quiet for a little bit. I realize that I look like Adam Sandler and Kevin James had an adult baby. Like, it's like, and when And when I start getting more Kevin James, it's time to start eating more salads. Like that's like my opening line when I got up there. And it's just like it's realizing what's funny, but from your perspective. So like when I'm here in this office, like these parents don't want spewed facts and all this kind of stuff. They want to hear your real life experiences and how do you feel about those things. That's really the key more than anything else.
I can't get that picture out of my mind with Adam Sandler and Kevin James. But I love it. That's a great analogy. You
It's
know,
not a
but
compliment.
that is a gift you have, and that's certainly something that you can bring this realism to your practice and this realism to the way that you speak and your ability to communicate with people and build relationships because you do come across so genuine with the way that you speak. So let me ask you. I want to go back to the beginning. I want to know, you know, you got into chiropractic, and I remember some of your story because I've heard some of your story, and I'd like to maybe fill in the gaps here. First of all, how did you get inspired? You know, because you're an
Yep.
Iowa boy. How
Yep.
did you get inspired to become a chiropractor?
So I had really bad asthma allergies when I was 7 years old. Went through the whole thing, the shots, the inhalers. The inhalers started causing headaches. So at 12 years old, I started taking Tylenol and aspirin because my mom didn't know any better than to keep taking me back to the doctors. Tylenol and aspirin just so I could put my football helmet on in middle school. Next thing you know, I start having stomach ulcers at 17. So the stomach ulcers turn into, oh, here, take these pills. And that turned into digestive problems. So fast forward to my third year of pre-med at University of Iowa. I really wanted to help people. I knew I always wanted to help people. That was at my deepest core. And my academic advisor one day went AWOL, like the guy that I'd had from the beginning, he just left. And so randomly, not so random, they just kind of shouted out, they're like, "Hey, this guy's here to see somebody. Anybody got some time?" And this lady's like, "I've got 15 minutes." So like I go in there and I give her kind of a little bit of the brief story. And she goes, "It sounds like you hated your doctors growing up. Why do you want to be one?" And I'm like, "What else is there?" And she goes, "You should go see my chiropractor." And in fact, she said there's a chiropractic school down the road. So I didn't even go see her chiropractor. I actually went and checked out Palmer because I'm like, hey, my chiropractor back home had a pretty big house and I'd never been adjusted, nothing. And so I go to Palmer because what she said to me kind of hit me. She goes, listen, she goes, 99%, because I'm like, I don't have neck pain and back pain. Why would I go to a chiropractor? She goes, 99% of chiropractors work with neck pain and back pain. And this is what she said. But when 1% work with the healing power that God put inside your body. So whether those numbers are off, that's her numbers. So I said, that's intriguing, but I'm still skeptical. But I went and I visited Palmer, and it was a dump at the time. So I don't know why I went there, but I ended up there anyway. And my second week in at Palmer, I started playing rugby because Canadian guy told me you got to come play rugby with us. And my second exposure was to chiropractic was an intern. And he's also a Canadian guy. And Robert Muschamp, I still remember, gave me my first adjustment. And I don't know where he is these days, but he gave me my first adjustment, but my headaches almost started melting away right away. And within about 2 to 3 months, I came off all four of those medications. And really, the rest is history. And you would like to think with that great testimony, you'd be like, oh, I was on fire for chiropractic. But I really wasn't even on fire for chiropractic. I was grateful for those things, but I really didn't catch the fire for chiropractic yet. But that's what got me started on that journey for sure.
So you spend some time at Palmer, and then after graduation, and this is where the story really gets interesting from my memory. You got into practice. So what happened in practice? Where'd you go?
I was so clueless in school. So if there's students listening to this, get a clue in school. I mean, you're spending way too much money to not have a clue. And we'll get to some of those tips later. But I didn't, I played rugby, I played baseball, and I smoked drugs. And so that's kind of like, and drank lots of alcohol. That's what I did through. And I took maybe a couple extremity seminars. That's about it. And I really I never got caught on to like what a chiropractic is supposed to be like. I never visited a clinic, nothing like that. So when I got out, I was clueless. In fact, I stayed in Davenport for about 2 months and finally moved to Kansas City because I had my best friend from University of Iowa in high school was down there as a pharmacist. And I stayed on his couch for a little bit. Eventually, I just got a job. I couldn't find a job. Nobody would pay me as an associate. So I eventually did an independent contractor with a guy that was just as clueless. And so we did a 50-50 split, but the reality was I didn't know how to get new patients. I didn't know how to educate new patients. I didn't know how to get patients to pay. And so I ended up bartending 3 nights a week for the first 3 years out of practice because I was so miserable. I think it was also I was miserable in practice. I mean, it was awful. It was the dark days. I knew I loved chiropractic, but I just didn't know how to make it go.
Wow. Wow. And so how long did that go on? How long did the bartending gig go on for?
So that went 3 years. And finally, I met this girl who was also a chiropractor. Her name was Eliza Kim. And we went out and had dinner a couple times. And we went and saw Dave Major. If you know who Dave Major
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
we went and watched him do a screening down the road from where my office was. And I saw this guy who's not a chiropractor just educating the public about chiropractic, is just so excited about chiropractic. And as we're driving away from there, me and my beat up car and her Porsche, because she's a successful chiropractor at this point in time, she looks at me, she looks at me and she says to me at one point in time that night, she goes, "You are too charismatic and too good to suck this bad as a chiropractor." She goes, "You need some guidance. You need a coach." And so that was kind of that set me off in that direction of finding somebody that could help me learn how to be able to run a practice and be able to organize the processes and be able to figure out how to market too.
Yeah, and you mentioned Dave Major, and for a non-chiropractor to have that type of energy and be such a chiropractic advocate. I mean, I've been listening to Dave Major for years, way back in the days of On Purpose when that first started back in the mid 90s. I remember hearing Dave Major on Purpose. So what type of influence did that have, and where did that take you after that?
Yeah, so I started actually started with a philosophy group in Kansas City. Some older guys that were reading green books, which I never read before. They had the whole big beards, like you used to have, and they looked like BJ Palmer and DD Palmer, and so I thought it was a little bit weird at first, but it formed a pretty good group of guys to just see people that have certainty in what they're doing and a passion and love for chiropractic. And then I also hired my first coach, which was waiting list practice CJ Mertz. And so that was my beginnings of like, oh, wait, there's a process of how to get people in the door. And there's a process of what to do when they get here instead of just winging it. And like we started putting those things in place and we started actually having some pretty good some pretty decent growth along the way then too.
And then when I first met you, we were at it was a Body by God seminar.
Yeah.
And how did you end up there?
So I ended up there because I moved across the country to North Carolina. And so when I came to North Carolina, the lady that I was working for, starting an office for, she had been with CJ Mertz for a long time, and she's like, "Hey, these two guys over here are doing this Body by God thing. Let's go check out the seminar." And so we went there, and I was just like, "Holy cow, this is like right in line with what my philosophy, my principle is." And again, I had a lot of the basics already. This was just kind of that mentorship that I needed along the way to say like, hey, are you constantly working on yourself? Are you listening? Are you reading green books? Are you speaking chiropractic? Are you working on your talents and skills? Kind of like back to my stand-up comedy class. Was I actually putting the work in? Because I can't just walk in this office and say, man, this sucks that we suck without doing anything about it. Like that's not how my mindset. It's like, no, no, no. What can I do to get myself prepared to make sure that this office gets up and going? Is what it was.
I remember those days, and I remember going to seminars and training together with you. And I remember on the calls, we'd have these group calls, and you would often, in fact, almost every call, be on there, asking questions or making a statement. And I remember your famous statement was, "Wow, that just hit me right between the eyes." And you'd always say that. Dr.
Yeah.
Ben or Dr. Greg would say something, say, "That just hit me right between the eyes." So tell me that level of coaching and being involved in that community, in that group and those mentors, how did that affect your practice? Where'd your practice go from there?
Yeah, so we ended up growing that practice. It was at under 100, and actually, I'm sitting in the practice that we started 21 years ago last week, and so that at that time I was actually still down at the beaches of North Carolina, but we took a practice from 100 to 250, 275, which was no slouch of a practice. We were doing very, very well. I was still making lots of mistakes. I was still pissing lots of people off, patients, because you're kind of balancing between who am I really and who am I trying to be, and it comes across as probably inauthentic at points in times, and so when we moved to Charlotte, I had a big struggle here too in this office. My baby girl, I have four daughters. My oldest sat underneath this desk right behind here, watching VHS tapes of Baby Einstein while we ran the office together, you know? And so still remember those days like it's yesterday. But like I still struggled pretty hard here in Charlotte. I worked my ass off though. I screened just about every day, if not every day for the first year. Like I was out in the community, but I went through a period of time where I tried to sit behind a computer and tried to plan things out more than I was actually doing things. And so it was the first year was a very big struggle. I remember April to December of that year, we only collected $90,000 for the whole year. And so then the next year is kind of when we started getting some grip. And then something happened to me and changed me that said, you know what? I've just got to start speaking the truth, not just inside these walls, but outside the walls. And when that started happening, things started clicking and we went to 250, 350, busted through 500. And then like 2007, 2008, then we busted through 1100 patient visits a week. And I had a couple independent contractors that were seeing their patients here as well. And it was in this small space that you see behind me here, this 1450 square foot office. And so something clicked for me there, but it wasn't, I wish I could tell you it was, I wish for people that are listening here, I could just tell you it was one thing, but it's not one thing. It's many things. I learned probably the biggest thing is I learned how to communicate chiropractic. And that's what I did Danny Knowles podcast the other day. And I just said to him, I said, the biggest thing that got me ready to speak chiropractic was screenings. And chiropractors, it's a dirty word in chiropractic. It's a dirty word for students. But you know what? Like nothing gives you more repetitions. So if you're going to be a stand-up comic, guess what you have to do? You have to go to open mics, and you go to multiple open mics. You're going to suck some nights. You're going to be good some nights. You're going to get good feedback. You're going to get bad feedback. Screenings are basically like getting into an open mic. Nothing's going to give you more exact feedback than you going to do a screening and talking to somebody about their problems and trying to transition that into why it's a spine and nerve system issue and getting feedback right on the spot if it's a yes or no. And if it's a no, man, I didn't do my job. And more, or maybe they're not ready, but you've got to keep getting better and better. And that was the brilliance of that, of doing those screenings.
Yeah, that's incredible advice. That's awesome. So, and then and I remember obviously with growth becomes authority. People start asking you questions about, hey, what are you doing? How's this working? And want to know. And you started coaching. And so, how did that transition happen? And what I mean, I think my biggest question is, what did that do for you personally?
Yeah, so I think for that, I mean, it definitely was an ego boost as well, and that's kind of the downfall of that thing. I think it was, but it was also the blessing of it was of me just trying to help people speak chiropractic. I felt so crushed, um, sucking bad as a chiropractor, but when I started getting guidance along the way, that's what really changed my life. It changed everything. It changed our finances. It changed our ability to be able to pay bills. It changed our ability to be able to take vacations, be able to have date times. It changed everything for us, right? And so I wanted to be able to help other people get that, but not do it at a sacrifice of doing chiropractic. And
Mhm.
so the best thing about that is that I really just I really was able to give people my life experiences and where my struggles were. And I think you said something before that people connect to me. I think not most, I don't want to make a generalized statement, but a lot of coaches get up there and they're so good at their life. They're so organized with their life. And everybody walks up there and they're like, man, I just don't connect with that person, or that's a good idea. Let me go do that idea. I think where people connect with me is like, oh, this guy's an F up like me. Like, like I'm a real person. Like I struggle. Yeah. So like I ate that pizza. I didn't eat only protein and barley or whatever the hell you're supposed to eat. Right. So I think people could connect with me, but same thing in a practice, like, like who I am on stage, who I am here in the practice, who I am at home is the same person. Like I try to rip off all of the masks, all of the things that I try to be somebody else. And it's way more comfortable when you're yourself and you attract the people that you're supposed to attract when you're more yourself. And so when I started coaching, it was really more about like, hey, look, this is where I struggle and this is how I overcame that. And I think people were drawn to that saying, No, I struggle with new patients too, or I struggle with collections too, or I struggle with getting the spouse to the doctor's report too. Like where all they've heard before that is they've heard, oh no, just do this and it's going to work. And they're like, but it doesn't always work like that for me. And then they would always gravitate to me because they're like, okay, you're kind of the F up in the family. How did you make this thing work? Right?
That's really, I mean, that's a really mature perspective, and I think that's a true level when you can get to that point, Mark, of fulfillment and personal and spiritual growth, really, when you can start to identify that. And you said something earlier about the difference between who you really are and who you're trying to be. And I think when you finally realize that, that's a beautiful place in the middle. I want to ask you because I know you had an incredibly great friendship with Dr. Charles Majors, and I want to let's talk a little bit about that and how that affected you. First of all, professionally, because
Mm.
Charles was so driven in what his belief system was and his principles. How did that affect you personally and professionally and make you a better person?
Yeah, his oldest son had a birthday yesterday too. So Caleb, shout out to
Caleb,
him.
yeah, I saw that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, I sent Caleb a message just saying Dad's smiling, because Chuck and I, it's so funny. Like when I was trying to reach 1,000 a week, and it was kind of like that was kind of the measuring bar, in the mid 2005, 2010. It was kind of the measuring bar for what we were trying to do with our group that we were with. And so it's kind of like who's got the biggest biceps and biggest other things, right? So it's like that's what we do, right? And so I think we are at 600, 700 a week, and I'm having lunch with this kid. I hated Chuck. I hated him in school. I knew him in school, and he was this big steroid muscle head. And I was just like, this guy's annoying as F. I'm just like, I can't hang out with this guy. Then I met him again at Maximize Living Seminar years later, Body by God, and still didn't like him. And then we started just like kind of gelling over chiropractic and family and all this kind of stuff. And we became best friends. And it's kind of odd for men to fall into a best friend at later on in life, because there's some background there. But we had so many things that lined up, but we were so different. Like we were so different, but so the same. But that guy, from a certainty standpoint, like my best Chuck Majors story for you is that when he was just up and coming, and I think he was seeing like 500 or 600 a week, 700 a week. It's one of his first or third seminar at a Max Living seminar, and somebody's speaking on stage, and he's looking down at these notes, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm just looking through my notes." I'm like, "For what?" And he wasn't scheduled to speak at the seminar. Nobody knew who the hell he was at this point in time. And he's like, "I just got a talk prepared." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, in case they ask me to speak." And I'm like, "They're not freaking asking you to speak here. This they've had this plan for like years." Sure enough, they asked him that weekend to speak. And he had a talk already in place. So like he always came prepared to know that, hey, look, somebody doesn't ask me to do something, right? And the second story that I have about that was brilliant. Second story I had about him was he when I was at 600 or 700 a week, and I said I want to go to 1,000 a week. He's like, "No, you don't." And I said, and it was in Vegas. I still remember we were in Vegas at a restaurant. And he's like, "No, you don't." And I go, "No, yeah, I do." And he goes, "No, if you did, you'd be there." And I'm like, "You're such a dick." Like it's like we piss me off all the time. But he was right because my habits, my training, my preparation, my certainty, my focus was not 1,000 week practice. Like he knew it and he saw it and he was able to get me there. And so like that's what was so brilliant about that guy is he had such certainty with the things he said, and that people would just follow him and have quoted him for years since then because the guy was just that certain about everything that he did.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. He's certainly missed, that's for sure.
For sure.
So let me ask you. So now, I mean, now obviously in this stage of your life, what are you doing as far as you're in practice full time, you're coaching, what are you doing personally and professionally?
Yeah, so a lot of this last year's been just a massive challenge, lots of changes, and went off and started doing some coaching on my own. I love actually having some separate time. My schedule is so much calmer that I'm able to do more things. I'm going to adjust to Elevation Church after this, and yeah, it's just my life's changed. I've spent more time with my girls in this last year than I ever have. It's just been a brilliant, brilliant year. It's been beautiful to see. I've worked on myself because all my last 16, 17 years have been always just pouring out, pouring out, pouring out, pouring out to team, pouring out to family, pouring out to clients. It's just been constantly pouring out to patients, like just constantly pouring out, and never really had those pauses. Like when I was doing the most of my coaching, I worked full time in this office, and every free time that I had, chiropractor schedules are great. But if you're coaching all the other hours that you're not seeing patients, it gets to be definitely a lot. And so I definitely had a lack of balance there. So this last year has been really just like, okay, like why am I here? And like, what have I've had to work through a lot of stuff in this last year. I've apologized to my daughters about a lot of things because, being a coach, you get into this rut where you're always just trying to fix people's things. And so this is not only for my team, this is not only for my patients, but my family. Like I was always, they come to me, and in therapy world, they call it this bidding. They would bid to me like what they felt. And like the hardest thing as a coach that knows how to fix people is you to stop trying to fix people at home, and stop trying to fix people. And so like let them feel and let them tell you their emotions, because that's what building a relationship is really all about, is actually understanding, oh, that's why you feel that, that's what you feel, and that's how you feel. And instead of like actually trying to fix them, like let them emote, let them have the emotions with it. And so that's where my relationship with the girls have just come so strong this year, is because they're like, man, you've changed so much, to where, Ace is running a nail business right now, and she's like, hey, all my friends are saying this, this, and this, and I should go open this salon and do this and this. And I go, she goes, what do you think? And I said, I don't know. What do you want to do? And she's like, no, you're supposed to tell me what to do. And I'm like, that's old dad. Like let's find out, what do you want? And then I'll help you go get it if you want my help. But I've got to let you live your life. And I can't tell you how to feel or what to do. Where sometimes they'll say, and we know this, right? Sometimes they'll say that they want to be fixed, and sometimes they just want to be listened to.
Right. Right.
A lot of times they just want to be
Yeah.
listened to.
I think you learn that over the years after all your mistakes as a parent, and we're so similar, but we're so different. I mean, you're the father of four girls, and I'm the father of four boys. And life, I'm sure for both of us, has been very different, but very uniquely the same in many aspects too. So yeah, that's you never learn. Like, I mean, you never become great at what you do. You become great at it, but you never perfect it. It's just an ongoing journey for sure.
Definitely been
So
humbled with the girls this year, and just like getting to know them better, because they're getting older. I mean, my youngest is 14, my oldest is 21. So, I mean, you got that too. You got that change where everybody's kind of transitioning. It's like, I love this stage. I was holding a baby yesterday in here on this tabletop here, and somebody's like, "Oh, do you miss the babies?" I'm like, "No, not at all." Like I love the stage that I'm at, God prepared me for this stage right now. I love this
yeah,
stage.
yeah. Well, and I have my first granddaughter now, so that's it's pretty amazing. I got to say, it's a totally different world. So you did bring up something though, your involvement at Elevation. An Elevation Church is one of the most rapidly growing churches in history, and you're right in the hub of it in Charlotte, North Carolina. How has being part of Elevation changed your perspective or changed your life?
Just from a community standpoint, the community is so strong. Obviously, people outside the community, they've got plenty to say about the church. There's polarization, both sides of this thing and everything like that. But the community's been great. Like when I've been volunteering over there. I go adjust once a week for the last 15 years now. And over at headquarters, and it went from, you know, 20 staff members to now whatever they have, 300, 400 plus interns. And it's insanity. They have a whole strip mall now. I mean, it's pretty fascinating actually. um, but being around that greatness, when I've had a chance, we actually pulled Pastor Furtick out to a couple maximize living seminars, and I've had a chance to talk to him a few times, and I'm like, how do you, like, I'm building a talk right now for 3 weeks from now at New Beginnings. And like for me to build a talk out for 20 minutes, it takes me about 6 weeks for me to kind of really get it tuned in and toned down, right? Like I can't imagine speaking every single week on the pulpit and like having to do every Sunday. And so like I've asked Pastor Furtick before this in the past, I'm like how do you stay like so energized and so passionate towards this? And he's like, and it's very similar to chiropractic. And this is what I learned probably the most from him, is like, he's like, I have to remember my why did I start this church? Like, why did I start this thing? In fact, they have interns when they move across the country to come be an intern at Elevation, and they're so excited to start. They say, grab your phone, and I want you to record to yourself why do you think, or why are you here? What's your why? Because when it gets hard 3 weeks, 3 months from now, and when it gets hard and you're working like 80 hours in a week, you have to hear your own voice to why you started this thing. So one thing he said to me is like remember why you started this, but stay grounded in scripture for his what he said. But I think scripture for us, scripture and the green books, the principle, the philosophy, you have to stay grounded in that. And the other thing he said is every day he has then put a life story or a testimonial on his desk so he remembers why he started the church. And so for me, that's what it is. It's like whether it's a video testimonial, whether it's written testimonial, whatever it is, like the life change that's come through this office in the last 21 years, the stories are just fascinating. But it's easy when we get into that mindset of business mode to forget all those things and start to do stupid stuff or freak out or do whatever. We have to stay grounded into what and why we're doing what we do.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, Mark. So tell me now, so you're in your 50s, where's Dr. Mark Suprenant 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What does the future hold for you?
So by the time I'm 60, goal is to have 10 Bitcoin. Um, and so that's one of my goals. Next 5 years. So next 5 years, empty nest then, right? So kids will all be gone. So I'm never gonna stop doing this. I love this. I love the practice. I love the practice. I love the practice. I love the practice. I'm never gonna stop doing this. Maybe it looks a little bit different. I definitely love consulting and coaching too, but I'm not taking on a ton of clients because it's just like I don't want to overconsume myself with so many people. I want people that really want to change. I want people that are really willing. And one of the cool things about what I've realized on this side of being in a group is that, everybody's needs are a little bit different. Everybody's wants are a little bit different. And so I realized this probably 4 or 5 years ago is like my job as a coach, just like a parent, is not to tell you what you should want. My job is to hopefully ask the right questions or challenge you to get out of you what you want. And then, like, once we know what you want, and this is truly what you want, then it's our job to put the plan in place to go get that. And then when we put that plan in place and we start to execute those things, if things aren't working properly, then we had the wrong plan, or you're just not putting the energy into working the plan that we're supposed to. And so I love this aspect of it because you see these, and some of them are younger, some of them are older that are kind of stuck in their ways. But I love seeing these chiropractors just start to realize it's like, oh man, I can have everything I want, but I just have to stay in the process. I've got to train. I've got to do the things. And so on this side of it, Colin, to be honest, I really feel like this next decade for me is trying to, this is going to sound cheesy as all get out and corny as all get out, is try to figure out how to break down the silos in chiropractic. Like we've got like, God, when I go speak at all these seminars and I go to these other seminars, I just see silos everywhere in this profession, and it's not going to promote our profession anymore. It's not going to help us grow. It's not going to help get the principle out there. It's just it's every single year you hear somebody say this is the greatest time to be alive as a chiropractor. Been saying it. People have been saying it for 30 years. I've probably said it a million times. I bet you've probably said it before too. And it's just like, but is it really like as I go to Sherman and as I go down to Life and as I kind of spread out and go to these other schools and kind of talk to different people and go to different seminars now, like I'm looking around me and I'm like, man, we have very little unity in this profession. And that's a problem. It really is. We love to talk about all of our differences and we love to fight about all of our differences. And I'm going to take a quote from one of our values that we have as a church at Elevation Church is that we're what we're for, not what we're against. We should be what we're for, not what we're against. But yet, it's in the church world, it's very easy to be against things, and that's what creates division. If you're always talking about how are we against each other? But if we gotta be able to find a common ground for what we're for. And so I'm taking took a last year ACP at Sherman College. I'm taking DACP this next 2 years, which are Academy for Chiropractic Philosophers. It's an excellent program. It's helping deepen my understanding of the principle of chiropractic. It's so different than the principle. It's the same, but it's so different than the principle of philosophy that I learned at Palmer. So there's differences in our philosophies depending on the school as well. And people have different ways of thinking that we can get there. And so I just had a chance to kind of take a back row seat of not being on stage as much this last year, but also seeing like just kind of observing the layout of the land here and just seeing that we have, and I see you. I see you and I see Danny Knowles. Danny Knowles' seminar out in Mile High was pretty much, there's a lot of different groups out there. He's trying to break down those silos. I see you in the interviews you have. I mean, you have anybody and everybody. I love that. I love you're breaking down to, you're not creating more separation in the profession. You're creating that, no, let's get the voices out here. And so I think that's where my next decade or two is going to be. Obviously, I'm going to still have my hands on patient. I'm still going to be educated. I'm still going to be running offices. I'm still going to be coaching and consulting. But I really feel like there's got to be a way for us to be able to bring this profession together and make it stronger and start speaking the same message, even though there's going to be differences, but speaking the same messages. But we have to get the definitions of place of what chiropractic is. And I think that's the biggest argument that we have at the beginning is like, what's the definition of chiropractic, right? So everybody has their own definition of what they think chiropractic is.
100%. And that's my big motivation in doing this. And that I really feel that this profession needs to be united in principle. But the beauty of it is that there's so many different ways to express principle, whether it's your technique or the way that you care for people can be very unique and very different as long as as long as we're united in principle. And that's why I think, and we've often said this at seminar, you heard this all the time, all techniques work if your intention is true.
True.
And that's the beautiful thing. So I want to ask you, so who right now is your biggest mentor? Who pours into you?
Gosh, my big one right now, I'm still hot on Reggie right now. Like Reggie is so good from a principle standpoint or philosophy standpoint. Bill Decken at Sherman, like I'm loving the Sherman people right now because I'm just in that stuff right now. Um, but Reggie still speaks to me from a principle and philosophy standpoint. Um, some of I'm going through some Tony Robbins stuff right now. I'm actually going back to Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Like, I mean, these things are the ones that I actually did a whole course on Napoleon Hill in the last 90 days. And so these are the people that I'm getting into me, like all the thought processes and like why we make decisions and choices. And of course, I've been really super strong in getting into my Bible and getting to church on a regular basis because there's so many gems in there about like just principle and philosophy on life in general and just like understanding and staying grounded of like who we are and why we're here, and realizing that.
Well, I love it. I love it, Mark. You're so truly authentic. So let me ask you, so as we conclude here, and I want to respect your time, but what would be your best advice to whether it be students getting into the profession or students maybe thinking of going to chiropractic school, or maybe even young chiropractors who are in practice and a little uncertain of where they are? Well, is this the right place for me? Why am I not, why am I struggling? Why am I not getting or making the living or making the goals that I really hope to? What would be your suggestion or your advice to them?
I love that. So that's like students that come through here that say, I want to be a chiropractor. Um, my first thing to them is I'm like, go visit offices, multiple offices, go see how it runs, right? So that's a big one for me. Students, students at schools, my big one for them is same advice. Go visit the offices. You've got to figure out how you want to practice. And start to get yourself prepared. So if you can go early on as a student and go visit multiple offices, maybe you like the personality of the doctor, go see what their practice looks like. Go into their doors. What does their office look like? What is their lighting? What does their sound look like? What does it smell like? Talk to the patients? Like, do you even want to do that? So like before you even choose to go to chiropractic school and spend all this money, which is a whole nother problem we can do another podcast on. But you, before you go do that, like you better be sure that you want to go. Because it's no joke the amount of loans that you're going to have out on the other side of this thing. If you're a student, you have to get to offices. Go two things. Go visit as many offices and chiropractors as you possibly can. And number two, go screen for those same doctors as much as you can too. Go do screenings for them. And because people say like, oh my God, when you speak about chiropractic, how do you know how to do this so well? I'm like, because I spent my first year at Sam's Club down the road here every day, plugged into their TVs with my MyoVision and scanning people left and right and talking to people about their headaches, subluxation, nerve system, remove it, body heals. How did I keep doing that? I did it hundreds and hundreds of times a week, and I kept doing it over and over again. So if as a student, go visit the offices, figure out what you want to be like, And then also learn how to speak chiropractic. Don't just get out with scripts and say, oh, I can say this, this, and this. Speak it out loud. Go to the open mics. As a comic, you have to go to open mics. You have to learn how to speak in front of people. You got to get the feedback. Screenings are brilliant from that standpoint. And get over yourself. Like, get over yourself. I know that you're going to have some nervousness and all that kind of stuff, but guess what? It's not about you. It's about saving lives. Like, it's literally about saving the tears in patients' eyes when their lives completely change and transform because you gave an adjustment and their body was finally able to function and heal and do what it's supposed to do. Like, nothing's better than that feeling. These people get their life back, that their baby's finally sleeping through the night, that the mom and dad are actually able to get a restful night so they're not yelling at each other the next day. It is fascinating when you start to see those stories when you go visit offices as a student, but also when you start speaking chiropractic out at screenings. That's my best advice to students right now. You got to get outside of that school. I love the schools, not all the schools. I don't love all the schools. There's specific ones I love more than the other ones, but I think school is necessary, obviously, for you to get a license, but you've got to get outside of those campuses and got to go out and meet the chiropractors and go speak chiropractic. Have to.
You can feel the passion coming through you as you start talking about that. So I want to ask you, so contrary to that, what's the best advice you've ever had?
Somebody's given to me.
Yeah, that somebody's given to you.
Jeez. I wasn't ready for that question. My best advice was to be real. One of the first camps I ever went to, I sat there and I still remember Todd Royce and Paul Reed were in that group. And so this is back in the day, right? And I'm sitting there, Ben and Greg are there, and I'm doing a screening. I'm practicing screening in front of a whole group, right? And and I go and it sucks. And I go and it sucks. And I go and it sucks. They're like, it sucks. You suck. Like you suck. And I'm like, and like they sat there for half an hour, like, no, that's not it. You're like not being yourself. And at one point in time, they said, put a beer in your hand and talk to them like you're at a bar. And Paul and Todd are just sitting and say, like, where's the guy that was on the bus? Like, where's that guy that was funny and laughing and we had a blast here on the bus? And now you go do the screening and now you're this like stiff doctor with a stethoscope around your. I was trying to be what I thought other people wanted me to be. And way even back then, 20 plus years ago, they said, no, you have to figure out how to become the authentic self. So it's not trying to be something, it's letting down, removing the interference so you can be who God designed you to be, is basically chiropractic in general anyway, right? And that was probably the best advice ever because I've probably taken that to the extreme. I'm myself too much. And I'm wide open too much, and I sometimes get my mouth in trouble. My mouth gets me in trouble, but this is who I am. This is who you're getting is basically what it is as a practice in the office, at home. This is what you get. You get what you see.
Mic drop moment right there, Mark. You just dropped. That was it. That was perfect. That was perfect. I couldn't think of a better way to end this interview. So, I just have to say, I'm so grateful for your time this morning. I'm so grateful for obviously knowing you and being your friend and you. And I got to tell you, like you have helped me over the years, just knowing you and seeing how you interact with people, seeing how relaxed you are and how genuine you are, that you can be. And it really shows because you wear that on your sleeve, how you can be truly real in front of anybody. You're not trying to put on a face or put on a show for anybody. And I love that about you. So thank you.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you, bro.
Hey, thanks for your time. Love it.
Love you, man. Have a good one.